The chill of an early November evening hung over Heathrow Airport in 1983. A dampness that crept into the bones and made the world feel heavier, slower, more deliberate. It was the kind of night that felt unremarkable, ordinary to the millions who passed through its terminals, unaware that history was quietly assembling in the shadows. The hum of engines, the distant roar of departing planes, and the low, industrial rhythm of cargo movement provided a soundtrack that would in a few hours be tainted with betrayal, audacity, and violence that no one could have imagined. At the heart of this story was a man named Brian Robinson, a figure who moved among the familiar corridors of the Brinks-Mat Depot at Heathrow with a practiced, unobtrusive confidence. To the outside observer, he was just another security employee, a man whose uniform and badge signaled trust, reliability, and competence. But beneath that outward calm lay the spark of ambition, the kind of hunger that is patient, methodical, and ruthless. Robinson knew the inner workings of the depot better than anyone. He understood the timing of deliveries, the patterns of his colleagues, and the weak points in security that no one else noticed. In his hands, knowledge became a weapon, and it was aimed squarely at the vault that held over 26 million tons in cash, gold, and bearer bonds, the lifeblood of Britain's financial trust at the time. It was not an act conceived overnight. Robinson, along with a small group of carefully chosen men, studied the depot, rehearsed movements, noted the blind spots of security cameras, and observed the habits of everyone who worked there. Among his collaborators was Kenneth Noy, a man whose background in logistics and mechanical skill made him indispensable for the operational side of the plan. Others brought connections, muscle, and local knowledge. They were ordinary men with extraordinary ambition, carefully selected for a single daring purpose: to seize the unimaginable and disappear into the shadowed veins of London's criminal underworld. The night of the robbery arrived cloaked in fog and muted city light. The depot, usually a fortress of regulated order, seemed ordinary to the passerby, but inside, tension hummed like an electric current. Robinson moved with a quiet authority, his presence unremarkable yet deliberate. He knew when to linger, when to glance at cameras, and when to let his accomplices move unseen through the facility. Everything had to be precise. Hesitation or error could mean discovery, arrest, or worse. They began with subtle sabotage. Alarms were tampered with, locks carefully bypassed, and patrols anticipated. The depot staff, accustomed to routine and familiar faces, were vulnerable. It was the human factor that made the heist possible. Trust, the one invisible barrier that no metal door or camera could replicate. One by one, the security guards were neutralized, restrained with duct tape and rope, their protests muffled, their movements powerless against the orchestrated precision of men who knew their every routine. The vault itself was a cathedral of wealth, a cold, silent chamber where millions of pounds in cash, gold, bullion, and bearer bonds lay stacked in disciplined piles. The sheer scale of the treasure was intoxicating, overwhelming, a physical manifestation of ambition and desire. Robinson's team moved with efficiency, their actions rehearsed, every motion calibrated to maximize speed and minimize exposure. Duffel bags filled with cash, gold bars glinting in the stark fluorescent light, bearer bonds stacked with meticulous care, each item a piece of the vast fortune they had decided was theirs to claim. Time, though, was a cruel companion. Every minute in the vault increased the chance of detection. Every sound carried the weight of potential disaster. The men moved like ghosts, shadows in a building built to resist intrusion, and yet entirely susceptible to the human error that had become their instrument. The air was heavy, thick with the metallic scent of anticipation, fear, and the faint tang of sweat. They were living inside a tableau of tension that would be impossible to replicate, a moment suspended between audacity and catastrophe. Once the cash, gold, and bonds were secured, the escape began. Vehicles were stationed carefully, routes mapped, contingencies planned. The city beyond the depot was a labyrinth of fog, streetlights, and routine commuters, Oblivious to the unfolding drama, they vanished into the night, leaving behind a vault emptied not by brute force, but by the quiet betrayal of trust. When the alarm finally sounded, the aftermath was surreal. Security guards freed themselves, discovering the empty vault and the trail of meticulously executed care. Investigators arrived, confronted with one of the largest heists in British history, struggling to comprehend how a place considered impenetrable had been breached. Theories ranged from professional external gangs to inside jobs. The truth, as it slowly emerged, was more unsettling than fiction. Robinson and his team for a time enjoyed a fleeting triumph. The wealth they had seized was beyond imagining, a fortune that could redefine their lives. Yet human nature is rarely so accommodating. Suspicious purchases, sudden lifestyle changes, and the inevitable tensions within the group began to unravel their secrecy. Law enforcement, methodical and relentless, began connecting threads, following shadows and whispers, until the network of betrayal became visible. The investigation would expose not just the mechanics of the heist, but the fragility of human loyalty. Alliances fractured under pressure, greed and fear intertwining, until confessions emerged, arrests followed, and the stolen fortune was partially recovered. The repercussions were felt far beyond the immediate participants. Financial institutions reevaluated security, legal systems adjusted protocols, and the public, fascinated and horrified, followed the story as it unfolded in newspapers and television broadcasts across the country. Yet even with convictions secured and wealth retrieved, the deeper lesson of the Brinks-Mat robbery persists. The true vulnerability lay not in locks, doors, or cameras, but in the human heart, the ease with which trust can be weaponized, how ambition can twist loyalty into betrayal. Robinson's theft was not merely a seizure of wealth. It was a demonstration of how ordinary systems can collapse under the weight of insider knowledge and audacity. As I consider the events that night at Heathrow, I am haunted by a single question that lingers long after the details of the crime have faded from headlines. How secure is anything when the people we trust most are the ones capable of subverting it entirely? The Brinks-Mat robbery remains a stark, chilling reminder that no vault, however secure, can withstand the combination of careful planning, human knowledge, and the desire to take what is not rightfully yours. And in that perhaps lies the most unsettling truth of all. The greatest heist is not measured in pounds or gold, but in the betrayal of certainty itself.